That's what happened, because the Colombian military was well armed, but you could buy them off, you buy off a general, like in Mexico. You could buy everything anyway. Let me get back to, if these black mayors and Congress people were serious, they would tell the government, hey, if you want to help black people, stop putting the drugs in our community, because there's one thing I never met is black smugglers of cocaine. Just never met any. And the only guy that was doing that heroin, he went over there 1-2 trips maybe. That was American Gangster. His story and my story is exactly the same, except his was heroin and mine was cocaine. Yeah, it's almost the same story, except of course he made more money. But the first Negro to bring tons of pure heroin here, and he made big money. There was nobody else bringing no pure cocaine. Anyway, so what I'm saying is, I know the hypocrisy of the drug war. The drug war gives you probable cause to harass the black community. Black and brown, now white victims. The door is safety. Whenever they tell you that we want to keep you safe, right, that's what Donald Trump is saying. Break out running. Break out running, duck, and do whatever you can. Okay. And also, what's the longest war they've ever fought in America? The drug war. They had a program called The Longest War. That was 10 years ago. That was 40 years. Now, the other thing about just socially, remember in America, if you watch TV and you remember, in 1920, they prohibited alcohol, called prohibition. Before in America, the biggest crime was gambling and prostitution. That's where you made your money. When they made alcohol illegal, and Chicago's right up across from Canada. Chicago, you could get on, imagine them days, you would buy all that whiskey in Canada and send it right across the Great Lakes to Chicago. That's why Al Capone got so big. Do you know he would have been a billionaire today? Because he made $720,000 per week. In those days, that's that money. The gangs exploded. After 10 years, they said prohibition is not working. And the other things is producing criminal organizations that will eventually be able to challenge the government. They already challenge in each city, like in Chicago and in New York, the crime bosses could pay off, after you can pay off DAs, pretty soon you can get somebody in the governor's house. Yeah. Dewey and all those guys, up there in New York, yeah, he was a DA. Anyway, I was just thinking of a movie that had that scene in it. What was the Negro gangster that Fishburne played?
Undercover?
No, not Deep Cover. He played a 1920s gangster. It was a real person.
Bumpy Johnson.
Huh?
Bumpy Johnson.
Bumpy Johnson, down here. Bumpy Johnson, that's right. Bumpy Johnson was actually a real person. Bumpy Johnson was big, right? Bumpy Johnson now, hooking up with Italians, they was able to buy the city government. If you can buy the DA, they ain't gonna bother you no more, right? If you can buy the DA. If the DA give him enough money, he can run for governor. Right? If you can get to the governorship, some of them got the governorship. The point I'm making is this. When Franklin Roosevelt saw that this is not working, 12 years later they repealed prohibition. And the other thing was gangs got so strong and so heavy and so much money, they said, we've got to stop this because they'll be able to. You can't stop them because everybody gonna drink, right? This is like, you can't stop drugs, so you might as well legalize it, like they legalize alcohol, right? I mean, not for us as Muslims, but they might as well legalize drugs.
They started to do that.
They getting ready to do it, and remember, drugs was not illegal till the Harrison Act in 1914. Remember what was in Coca-Cola in the old days? You didn't have to snort your blows, you could go down there and get you some. Well, you could buy cocaine, you got cocaine, heroin, anything that they made.
Sniffing cocaine. It was a little box, a little thing with a little spoon and everything.
Of course. It was legal. You know who made it illegal? The AMA, when they got big enough, the American Medical Association. Why? The snake oil. You know, the bottles they have, they call it snake oil. It was like a cure in a bottle. For one bottle, they guarantee, you know, the snake oil man, that's what they mean. He would guarantee you this bottle, this bottle, he didn't call it snake oil. He called it Uncle Bob's Magic Elixir or somebody. Half of them traveled around with a wagon, and you know what I mean, from town to town, and they would sell it for $1. Now, the dollar don't sound like much now, but if you made $20 a month, $1 was $1. That was a day's salary. That was what you, okay. Now, what was snake oil? Did it work? Of course it did. It had a speedball. It had cocaine, right, to pick you up and give you a lift. And it had heroin to kill the pain, whatever your pain was. And they wasn't lying. Oh, you're going to die next week or soon. And then once you get addicted to snake oil, you got to buy it. But everybody, it was cheap, you know, just $1 for a little drink. And cough syrup with codeine in it and all that, they just got rid of cough syrup a few years ago. You know, they call that syrup, everybody, man, I gotta get me some syrup. Codeine. Okay, drugs was legal in those days. And all you had to do was have your formula. Now you gotta mention, when he told you this is gonna cure anything you got, it felt like he was telling the truth. Why? Because the heroin, I don't care what pain you had, right? The opium was gonna knock it out. It ain't gonna cure cancer, it ain't gonna cure nothing you got but pain. And then the cocaine in there gonna boost you up. That's why we call it a speedball, a mixture of cocaine. It just, hey man, they could get over on that right now. But the doctor said we got to stop them from having that because it's taking too much money from them. People going to the snake oil man and getting a bottle of that stuff instead of coming to him. So when the American Medical Association, the AMA, got big enough that they had the Harrison Act passed in 1914. Okay, let's get back to Adolf Hitler Jr. The Adolf Hitler Jr. show is Donald Trump. Right now, you got to realize constitutionally what's going on. He's violating the governor down there in Missouri and other places. They saying you got to stay out of here, right? The city, the mayor, the mayor in Chicago told him the same thing, but she's been kind of backpedaling a little bit. But here's the thing. Instead of him talking about we're going to keep you safe, that's what he's saying, right? The mayors ought to have enough courage to tell him that it's not guns killing people, it's these drugs and this other stuff that you put in here. And as long as those drugs, see, here's the thing. The new world we're going to live in, we're going to live on total lockdown, dictatorship, or we're going to be freer. What I mean, freer. If drugs are not illegal, that means you have a strong, do you know how many, you want to stop crime? What percentage of crime is linked to drugs? Anybody know? 80%. 80%. This is standard, a little higher, a little lower. This is standard. 80% of crime. Look, in the penitentiary, why are people in crime? Either directly with drugs, or burglaries to get money to buy drugs, or robberies to get money to buy drugs, or scams to get money to buy drugs, right? Assaults to get money to buy drugs. Paranoia, because you shot the man because you was paranoid off crank or something, and you thought he was going to do something to you. And you get real paranoid, you get juiced up off that stuff. Okay, so we'll live in a world that's kind of free, or we'll live in a dictatorship. That thing of security, police agencies watching you. If you knew the number of increased police agency and authority that they have based on drugs alone, the number of people in the penitentiary, unbelievable. The amount of money we spend on the police agencies, right? The court system, go down there, it's drugs. And in front of everybody, they send these big white folks to jail. They in today, they out tomorrow, or they had a big lawyer, right? Now here's, look how crazy this man is. What was the guy, Epstein or something? Yeah. Now the girl that was helping him is in court now. What Don say? I hope they treat her well, I hope. Okay, what about the niggas then? Right? I hope they fix the niggas up out there. I don't want to see them go to jail, right? Right? He ain't saying that. But the white lady, they pedophiles. The pedophile ring. This lady was setting up the young girls, 14, 15. You know what I mean? Hey, this is a good deal. You're going to get your education. You're going to, you know what I mean? And for them, they probably poor, but I mean, you know, but it's pedophile. She was arranging all that for the other guy. They killed him. And Epstein, you think he just died? You think he hung himself? No. Heck no. Man, they hung that man, they treated him like a nigga, you know, he committed suicide. So did black people, so did the young girl down in Texas. Commit suicide. The one that was feisty and arguing and everything, next day she's depressed and commit suicide. You can believe it if you want. You can believe anything them people tell you. It's up to you. I don't care. I'm just telling you, we told everybody this stuff from the very beginning. That number one, that stuff is all a fraud. The demonstrations, the killing of the brother, the arrangements, all of that is a fraud. Remember when we was down there and we were saying, this is a fraud, this is Hollywoodism, and they stopped. You know why they stopped? Because they was embarrassed. Because we there telling them, look at that, and they had to stop. Okay? We're going to be doing that. That's what we're getting ready for right now. Our mission is clear now. Okay. America needs a rescue. All of America. That's why, if you notice, we've been easing toward America, America the good. Why we've been easing toward that? Because it's clear that we live in a tragic time, but a blessed time. That we have an opportunity, and I hope the other Muslims get in on this. We have an opportunity to help the whole of America. Just think, if America goes down, if it burns up and everything, that means your mother burns up, whatever, your uncle, your nephew, right? Because, like it or not, we're Americans, right? So we want the system changed. We want the policies changed, right? But we want to rescue the people. The people are victims. And I'm telling you, they ran that stuff right up and down the street and demonstrated us for about 2-3 weeks, and they done changed the dialogue. Is there any more dialogue about Black Lives Matter? No, police lives matter, right? And police, defunding the police, we got to pro-fund, refund the police. We got to, right now, right today. Because all that was set up and arranged. The stuff that is happening right now is a sloppy job that they have really failed on putting it across, but it's still a danger. Let me explain it like this. When Trump did what he did with the flash bombs and all that downtown, okay, and then the military people, that was his move to try to get the military on his side. The military rebelled. He said, oh, boy. I mean, they big boys. So we ain't into that, the military. Safety number one. So technically, we semi-safe, but not done. Done is federalizing everybody he can. So those troops that are going to Portland, those troops that he has sent, they're all other, do you know he's got the border patrol? Much he talked about the border. Right. He leave the border. This when we get back, this is the news. And they're gonna come up and be running around in cities. And the white folks say they're not even trained for that. Who cares? This man, right, wants to get reelected. And it's a struggle with himself. His ego wants to be reelected because I'm Big Don. But his old lazy body don't want it. That's too much work, right? People bothering you all the time. He's sitting up eating his Big Macs and stuff. He said, can you imagine, look at every other president, their hair turned gray. Real soon. Obama was black-headed. He may have 4 or 5 black, gray hair, that's it. His head was white as snow when he come out of there. Because it bothered, it just work. You don't get no rest, you don't get no nothing. You know what I mean? And Don don't like that. Don is a bum. Don ain't never worked a day in his life. He just stole and steal from the people and sham. He's a scam artist. Can you imagine a president that had 51 cases against him when he became president? 51. And then nobody said, man, that's a lot of cases. You know what I mean? You could have paid all those people. Trump University, it's like this piece of paper. It's like this thing here. They got nothing in it. That's what a Trump diploma is. Nothing. The people that are suing him, you hear that? They suing him, right? He's a scam artist.
They won too.
Huh?
They won against him.
Yeah, they said this stuff ain't nothing, man. You just lied to us. Talking about you gonna get a job up in the flying industry, floating industry, and everything. So we're now moving towards what we call a counter-dictatorship strategy. Counter-encirclement tactics. That being that we have to, technically this is our mission for, seems like now. And you could tell that something is wrong if we're the only ones, black people and Muslims, is talking about this. Have anybody heard anything like this? But is this really happening? What we're saying, is that happening? Okay, the other thing is, did we outline before it even got off the ground, this is what they're gonna do, this is how it's gonna happen, and then they're gonna come back, and they ain't gonna be talking about you, and they got it so bad, they've got Negroes acting the fool, they don't have nothing to do with us, talking about, we apologize to the Jewish people for apologizing. What about Black Lives Matter? What about all the stuff you do to us all the time? I'm telling you, we told the people that day one. We're not happy that we're right, but we respect our analysis because it's been correct all the time. Okay, so that means at a certain period in history you develop, you're responsible for certain things. Like when you have knowledge, you're responsible for it a little bit. Okay, now, there's white victims, black victims, brown victims. They're victims of America. They don't even, you think Black Lives Matter, they done took over that, they done took, and we know how they take it over, but they don't know, the Muslims, they just think I'm just gonna get a better job, I'm gonna snitch on people so that I won't be too, you know what I mean? They're not thinking about dictatorship. Hey man, boss man is taking all of your rights. He's violating his constitution. Federal troops or military in the cities, technically the CIA has to work overseas, it can't work inside, technically. The Army intelligence has to work overseas. Of course, they use all that on us. Right? What does that mean? That means that we've